Report. Of course, this particular segment is known as Green Fix, and today we are discussing the concerns over the Wildlife Bill 2025. With me in studio, I have Rabia Hawa, who's the director, Ulinzi Africa Foundation. I also have Judy Mureithi, the director for Lawyers for Animal Protection Africa, and they have already raised a couple of concerns and things that they believe need to be amended in the new wildlife bill. That's the Wildlife Bill 2025. Let's continue with this particular conversation as we continue discussing the impacts of this wildlife bill. Rabia, you know, when it comes to your work as a wildlife conservationist, you've been doing this for a very long time. I would say your career runs over a decade, 2 decades maybe now? Yeah, around that. Not to disclose your age, but she started young. So Rabia, for you, what are some of the milestones that you've managed to achieve over the last few years? You know, starting from the times when you first started, when you first got into conservation, when you first got into KWS, all the way to now, when you know the great things that you've been doing. I feel like our viewers really need to know more about you because you're doing a great job. So maybe you can highlight some of your accomplishments and milestones in wildlife protection.
Okay, thank you. You kind of put me on the spot there a little bit. I wasn't expecting that question, but yeah, I've just been very passionate about wildlife all my life, really. And so while I was working in the media on Radio Africa, I would also volunteer with Kenya Wildlife Service and various other organizations across the country because I just had an interest. So whenever I had my off days, I would just go to the field. If it meant going on patrol with rangers, I would do that. If it meant rescuing a turtle and kind of releasing it back into the ocean, I would do that. Like anything to do with animals, I was there. And then in 2009, I believe it was, I started a forum called Kenyans for Wildlife, which was really just a platform for people to be able to share information about wildlife, sightings, even beautiful photos of our wildlife, and just really kind of get people to have access to that information as well in terms of what was going on in the conservation sector. I realized also that the conservation sector is very small. We kind of just live in our own little bubble and we share information amongst ourselves. We get very frustrated. I think there's a lot of mental health issues also because we do get a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress and trauma as a result of the kind of things that we see in the field. It's not easy to, you know, see and experience an elephant that you've been following for like 5 years and then see it dead one day with its tusk taken out. It's also not easy having to rush community members to hospital and finding that they have really some very severe injuries as a result of their conflicts with wildlife. And so I really want to say firstly that I'm so grateful to everyone who has taken it out of their interest and their life to be a part of the conservation movement in Kenya. I think it's so important. I would like to say that one of my personal highlights has been obviously starting Ulinzi Africa Foundation. I've now also revived Kenyans for Wildlife just as a WhatsApp community.
That's amazing.
But it's really because I feel like there's so many Kenyans that are interested in wildlife. You know, like they're writing to me on X every day, on Facebook. Like people just want to find a way to be involved. I think that there should be more opportunities in the sector, but unfortunately, you know, most organizations are donor dependent, so it's really quite difficult. But even if you're not kind of involved work-wise, I think just get out there, go into the field and just interact with wildlife. I would say another highlight, aside from starting Ulinzi and operating in Tana River and Lamu, very difficult areas to work in. We now have a team of 2 teams of rangers that work to protect wildlife. We also have set up a marine program, which is really important because I feel like in Kenya we focused so heavily on, as you see in your background, rhinos and lions and elephants. Like no one really talks about sharks, no one really talks about turtles, and actually sharks are being massacred in our waters. We have, you know, commercial fisheries that are really depleting our ocean resources at an extravagant rate. Like I am quite worried about our marine ecosystem. So we set up our marine program And we also now are working a lot on advocacy, so looking at things that are emerging threats to ecosystems, so issues like mining, for example, and just bringing people together and trying to galvanize communities and trying to galvanize the conservation organizations as well, so that we all really move with one voice and strengthen each other, so that we can really look at some of these underserved areas that don't get a lot of attention. Like, no one knows about Kipini. Everyone knows about Masai Mara, and that's why Masai Mara has so many organizations, quite a lot of community programs happening there. But in an area like Tana River and Lamu, where there's no tourism and there's travel advisories left, right, and center, it's quite difficult actually to conserve. It's very difficult to even bring in tourism. So you have to find other ways to really be innovative and really protect these ecosystems for the future. A lot of people don't know about connectivity of ecosystems, for example. Like in Tana Delta, that coastal forest actually supports the rainfall in Savo ecosystem. But all the tourists go to Savo, you have many organizations in Savo, and just us in Kipini. So you see, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of room for people to explore new areas in conservation. For us, we welcome anyone to just come and join us and just have an experience. And you know, we're very grateful to also organizations like Lawyers for Animal Protection in Africa, because a lot of times we also need legal support, you know, and to know that we're in that framework.
I was actually getting to Judy. Judy, maybe you can tell me more a bit about Lawyers for Animal Protection Africa, what exactly you do and what kind of work does, you know, your particular team consist of? What exactly do you do in terms of protecting animals?
As we know, lawyers are boring. Lawyers we have so many things about lawyers, but then we at LAPA, we call it LAPA, we try to make law interesting in terms of how do people relate with the law. You know, from a story, as Rabia's stories, they're very interesting stories. But how law comes in is now bringing the stories into policy and then making people now relate with everything else. And so that's where we're here. So LAPA is based in Kenya. We formed it with my two colleagues. One is called Amy, another one is called Jim. And so in LAPA, what you just do is just trying to see how do we connect the law, the people, and the environment, using the one health, one welfare. And I'll say the biggest project we've had is what we were working with Rabia is the court monitoring project, which has been phenomenal. We've been in that project from 2010 through Wildlife Protection and other organizations. And so, as Rabia says, not many people resonate with wildlife. And so people will always be complaining, we'll have all these messages, but then they need the lawyers to come in. So that's when we come in. So our highlight has been, we developed this cool system called the Wildlife Information Tracking System, which we've been trying to track and see how is crime relating with the community, like how does the how the human-wildlife conflict is relating with people. And you know, we lose more wildlife through human-wildlife conflict, not poaching anymore. And so now we're just trying to see that connection and show people that. Now that's where lawyers come in to help you with these things. We go to court, we fight for the animal rights and also your rights in terms of the compensation and trying to come up with these policies, like now how we are heavily involved with in the Wildlife Act, And also we are currently working with Rabia with a marine project called Waves Project, which is a very interesting project. So we're just trying to figure out how many people know how we can protect the sharks or how can we protect the ecosystems in the marines. And so I'm really looking forward for this new part of our organization, and I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you so much, ladies. This has been such an insightful conversation. I've actually learned so much when it comes to conservation of wildlife, of marine as well, you know, marine ecosystems. And it's nice to see that the two of you are actually fighting for the voiceless, because really wildlife, I mean, do they have a way to protect themselves? Yes, they do. But are they able to most of the times? Human-wildlife conflict also comes into the way. So there's a lot of things there's a lot of factors that come into play when it comes to conservation and protection of wildlife. So thank you so much for doing the great work you're doing. That is Judy Mureithi, Director, Lawyers for Animal Protection Africa. We also have Rabia Hawa, Director, Ulinzi Africa Foundation, who have been with me in studio as we discuss the concerns over the Wildlife Bill 2020 2025. So if you have any concerns of the same, please, of the same nature, talk to us. Do let us know on social media at TV47 Kenya, at Shiksha Aurora, at Rabia Hawa on X, as she said, and at Judy Murithi.
Yeah, Wangari Judy.
Wangari Judy.
Yeah.
All right. You can speak to us. Do let us know if there's something that you have to chime in on this conversation on the Wildlife Bill 2025, and we would absolutely love to hear from you and engage further on social media. All right. With that, it's time for us to delve into sports news.